In this study, in our Rapture series, we're going to look at when is the Antichrist revealed. If you are a pre-trib rapture person, then you believe that the Antichrist is revealed when he signs the covenant or enforces the covenant as mentioned in Daniel. If you are a mid-trib, pre-wrath, post-trib, something like that, you think the Antichrist is revealed some other time. Because in 2 Thessalonians it says specifically the rapture happens before the Antichrist is revealed. So we want to look at that today. Let's first go over to eSword, and we'll look at where the text is at. It's in Daniel chapter 9, and this is when the angel Gabriel comes and gives the 70 weeks prophecy. So look at this. It says in verse 24, 70 weeks are determined for you and your people as to your holy city, to finish transgression, to make an end of sins, to make atonement for iniquity, to bring in everlasting righteousness, and to seal up vision and prophecy, and anoint the most holy. So to anoint Messiah as king on the planet, which has not happened yet. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the command to restore and to build Jerusalem unto the Messiah the Prince shall be 7 weeks, 62 weeks, and the street shall be built again, and a wall, even in times of affliction. So what this is saying here is there is a prophecy of 70 weeks, at the end of which the Messiah will be reigning in Jerusalem in a messianic kingdom, which we know is still yet future. This is saying that from the time it starts, and we can find the decree and find out when it started, and march it forward the 7 weeks to when Jerusalem was rebuilt, and then the rest of the 69 weeks up into when Messiah died. So look at this. There's actually a gap in here. In verse 26 it says, after the 62 weeks, Messiah shall be cut off, but not for himself, for the sins of the people. So after the 62 weeks, there's the 7 and the 62, so 1 week left, Messiah is cut off, and the people of a ruler shall come and destroy the city and the sanctuary, and that was Titus in 70 AD. The end of that entire situation will be, like a flood, ruins are determined until the end of a war. And then he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. That's that last week. At the end of that week, of course, there will be the second coming, and Messiah will be ruling. So we have a gap in here, so let me show you basically that gap. Let me switch over to our notes here. So let's look at this real careful. This is the same thing. The Antichrist comes on the scene after this. Well, actually first. This first part is the Messiah will be cut off, not for himself, and then a people shall come and destroy the sanctuary, and the end is with a flood. So let's look at a chart here. We have the 69 weeks, and that ends with the Messiah's death, right? And so that's 32 AD. Then it says a people and a prince come and destroy the city and the sanctuary. That's the destruction of the temple, which was 70 AD. Then the result of which is a series of wars accumulating in the destruction of Jerusalem, of Israel as a nation, actually, a dispersion. So in 130 we have the Bar Kokhba War, and in 132, give or take a few years, Israel is dissolved and ceases to be a nation. Now in 1948, Israel comes back and starts to be a nation again. 1967, they capture the Temple Mount but don't build a temple. So what I'm getting at here is, if you look at this, there is 69 weeks straight, and then there's a gap of some sort because the Messiah dies, the temple's destroyed, Israel is dispersed, and then Israel comes back. Sometime in the future, Israel will rebuild a temple, and that may be before or after the rapture. But that's what we're looking on here, this gap in the 70th weeks. So looking at this, actually, let's go back to eSword and take a look at this. Let's go forward to when Paul explains this. Actually, let's go ahead and finish reading here. 9:27 says, he will confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. That's that last week. In the midst of the week, or in the middle, he will cause the sacrifice and the offering to cease, and on the corner of the altar desolating abominations, even until the end. But that which is decreed will be poured out upon him, so he will be destroyed by the Messiah. So this will be quoted and tried and explained by Paul in 2 Thessalonians. So let's go there and reread that real quick. He says, that day, the tribulation period, which is that 7-year period we're talking about, will not come unless there's a falling away first. The man of sin is revealed, the son of perdition, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God or worshipped, so that he sits in the temple of God, setting himself forth as God. He says he is Messiah. Do you not remember when I was with you, I told you these things? And now you know what holds him back, that he might be revealed in his own time. For the mystery of lawlessness is already working. Only that which holds him back will continue until he comes out of the midst. Now this says, and then that lawless one will be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the breath of his mouth and destroy with the brightness of his coming. So here's where the controversy lies. Some people look at this and say the Antichrist is revealed when Jesus comes back and destroys him at his second coming. That would be a post-trib concept. Other people say, up here when it says the son of perdition, the Antichrist is revealed, who opposes and exalts himself above all that's called God, that's worshipped, and sets in the temple of God. That's in the middle, where he actually stops the sacrifices, proclaims to be God. We would say, a pre-tribulational person would say, what's withholding the revealing of the Antichrist is the church coming out of the midst. See our other study on the phrase out of the midst, so we can prove that that is actually a rapture. But this is the controversy with that. Let's go back to our chart now and just kind of pull that together. So here's the 70th week. The Antichrist confirms a covenant at the beginning. He sets in the temple and proclaims to be God and stops the sacrifices in the middle. And he's destroyed when Jesus comes back at his coming. The question is, which one of these three are the revealing of the Antichrist? So if you were looking for the Antichrist, some people argue you may not notice a guy signing a covenant with somebody way on the other side of the planet. But you probably would notice when he sits in the temple, unless you're not paying attention. So here's the example and the logic behind it. If there is a pre-tribulational rapture, we will be gone. That will cause people to start looking for the Antichrist. Pretty straightforward. Let's assume that there is a mid-trib rapture. That means, or mid or post or pre-wrath or anything other than a pre-trib rapture. That means the church is still here. Do you know how many people on TV and radio right now, anytime anybody signs a 7-year covenant of anything, and they look at him and say, would his name equal 666? What about this? And there's a lot of other prophecies. There's about 10 prophecies that talk about the destruction of the Nile River, for instance, at the beginning of all this. Nile River is still here, so the Antichrist hasn't come. But those are examples. So if there's a pre-trib rapture, we're gone. If there's not a pre-trib rapture, we would identify the Antichrist immediately. We'd be looking for the guy who signs the covenant with Israel and starts the other prophecies going. So either way, no matter how you look at it, the Antichrist is revealed at the confirming of that covenant, that 7-year tribulation period, as mentioned in here. So now if we go back and look at 2 Thessalonians very carefully, we'll see that the Antichrist is revealed at the beginning of the 7-year period. And we'll see that the catching away is the rapture. We'll be able to pull all this stuff together. So continue studying with us in this rapture series. Thank you, and God bless.